200 guests. In her wedding gown. With photographers still snapping. The string quartet stopped mid-note. Gasps. Someone dropped a wine glass. I didn't flinch. I just stood there, cheeks stinging, heart thundering. My name is Emily. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because have you ever stood in a room full of people who were supposed to love you, only to realize they were applauding your humiliation? Let me rewind. She wanted my penthouse. Not borrowed. Not for photos. She wanted it given to her. It's symbolic, she said. You're single, childless. I'm starting a new chapter. It makes sense. I laughed. Thought she was kidding. She wasn't. She cried to my parents. Told them I was selfish. Told them I was blocking her blessings. And instead of shutting it down, my mother called me the next day and said, Emily, stop being difficult. It's just a penthouse. She's getting married. You have no one. I still said no. So on her wedding day, during the reception toast, she spun her champagne flute, smiled at me sweetly, and said, I just want to thank my sister Emily, who refused to give me what she didn't earn, but still showed up. You always were good at pretending to support people. Laughter. Polite. Tight. Then she walked over, hugged me with one arm, and slapped me with the other. A camera flash went off at that exact moment. The silence afterward was louder than the music had been all night. My parents? They laughed. My mom actually said, we told you to give it to her. It was your duty. Duty. Like I was some handmaiden in her fairy tale. I turned slowly, ready to leave. But then, a voice behind me, cool and deliberate. That's enough. Everyone turned. Standing at the back of the room, arms crossed, eyes sharp, was a man in a charcoal suit. Federal court badge clipped to his blazer. Judge Rowan. He looked straight at me and said, you want to press charges? My sister's face dropped. The room froze. Because what no one knew, he wasn't just a guest. He was my mentor. And I hadn't come alone. I'd come with witnesses, evidence, and something far more dangerous than revenge. Leverage. The entire ballroom held its breath. Judge Rowan stepped forward, calm but lethal, like a man used to commanding silence in rooms that echo with lies. She assaulted you in front of sworn officers, licensed attorneys, and 200 witnesses, he said. So I'll ask you again, Ms. Emily Green, do you want to press charges? My sister's face drained of color. Her groom looked like he'd just married a landmine. My father stepped between us, hands raised. Come on now. She's emotional. It's her wedding day. Judge Rowan didn't blink. Assault doesn't get a hall pass for florals and champagne. I looked at my sister, still in her $1,000 dress, still clinging to that sick, spoiled smile mask of hers. But she wasn't in control anymore. I gently turned toward him and said, not yet, but I want this incident recorded. I want everything documented. He nodded, pulled out a slim notepad, and started writing. My sister's voice cracked. You're seriously doing this? You're ruining my wedding. I smiled calmly. No, sweetheart. You ruined it when you forgot that I'm not yours to humiliate. Gasps again. And then quiet applause. Soft. Scattered. From 2 tables near the back. People who had known. People who had watched. People who were tired of her cruelty in couture. I walked past her without another word. My mother hissed, don't you dare leave. But I didn't stop. Because I wasn't walking out in shame. I was walking out in control. Outside, Judge Rowan caught up to me. She's going to spin it, he said. Cry on Instagram. Play the victim. I know, I said. And the media? I've got lawyers for that too. He nodded. You sure you don't want to file tonight? I paused. Let her sweat first. Because sometimes the silence before justice, it's louder than any sentence. I went home to my penthouse. Mine. Not gifted. Not begged for. Mine. I poured a glass of wine, sat by the window, and watched the city blink like it already knew. The girl they thought would crumble? She was about to flip the story. And it wouldn't be gentle. The next morning, my face was everywhere. Not hers. Mine. Someone at the wedding had filmed it. Her slap, Judge Rowan's voice, the stunned silence. The clip went viral before sunrise. Bride slaps sister for refusing to hand over penthouse. Then a judge stands up. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag sister not servant. Hashtag wedding wreck. Hashtag justice in heels. I woke up to hundreds of messages. Strangers, friends, colleagues, even old professors I hadn't spoken to in years. But the most unexpected message? From my firm's managing partner. We saw the footage. We're behind you. And if you choose to press charges or go public, we'll represent you at no cost. Because what they saw wasn't just drama. They saw entitlement punished. They saw a woman stand alone and not flinch. But of course, the damage control had already begun. My sister posted a blurry black and white selfie, holding a tissue to her eye. Captioned, "Weddings are stressful. Sometimes people provoke you, but family is still family. I just want peace." Peace? From the woman who slapped me across the face and tried to steal my home? And the reply said, "You didn't want peace. You wanted property." And then people started reposting think pieces. She wasn't the victim anymore. She was the example. Later that afternoon, my parents showed up at my building. Didn't even call. The doorman rang me. "Mr. and Mrs. Green are downstairs. Says it's urgent." I told him to send them up. Not because I owed them anything, but because I wanted to look them in the eye and say the thing I never got to say growing up. I'm not your disappointment. I'm your consequence. The elevator doors opened. They looked rattled, less arrogant, more exposed. My mother opened her mouth first, but I raised my hand. "Stop." I pointed to the couch. "Sit. Listen. This time it's my house. My rules." And when I was done, they didn't leave with my penthouse. They left with the truth. And it burned. They sat like strangers. The parents who raised me to be obedient, small, invisible, now suddenly afraid of what I might say, with the world finally listening. My mother crossed her legs, trying to act composed. "We didn't think it would go this far," she said. "You embarrassed your sister on her wedding day." I tilted my head. "She assaulted me. She was emotional. And you laughed. That shut her up." My father cleared his throat. "Emily, you've always been dramatic." "No," I said. "I've always been quiet. And you mistook that for weakness." I stood, walked to the glass wall of my living room, and gestured toward the skyline. "You see this? The life I built? I did it without favors, without shortcuts, without asking anyone to give me what they thought I didn't deserve." They didn't respond, so I turned to face them. "You shamed me for being single, for being ambitious, for not handing over my home like it was a wedding gift wrapped in guilt." I took a breath. Then, softly, "Why was it so easy for you to side with her?" My mother blinked fast. "She needed help. So did I. You just never saw it because I didn't scream for it." They didn't have an answer. Just eyes full of shame they were 20 years late to wear. I walked to the door and opened it. "You raised her to take, and me to tolerate." My voice didn't shake this time. "I'm unlearning you both." My mother stood, stiff. "You can't erase family." I met her eyes. "I'm not erasing you. I'm setting a boundary. If you ever want to be in my life again, you'll need to start with an apology, not an excuse." She didn't say a word. Neither did he. They left. And for the first time, the sound of my front door closing didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like protection. I walked back to my window, poured another glass of wine, and opened my laptop. One email from a women's rights publication. Subject: "We'd love to feature your story." I smiled. Because the girl who used to be shamed for speaking up, she was about to make headlines. And my sister? She hadn't even read the fine print on what happens when you slap a woman who's finally done staying silent. By Friday, my sister's wedding photos were no longer trending, but I was. Every blog, every podcast, every panel with the headline, "The slap heard around the internet, how one woman reclaimed her voice." I wasn't hungry for fame, but I wasn't hiding anymore either. I said yes to one interview. Just one. A calm sit down with a respected journalist who opened with, "Why didn't you just give her the penthouse?" I smiled. Because I was ready. I was raised to believe that love meant giving until I had nothing left, I said. But all that ever taught my sister was how to take without asking. The clip hit 1 million views in 3 hours. And suddenly, women across the country were writing to me, "Your story is mine." I didn't go to my sister's wedding either. I thought I was the only one. Turns out, there are a lot of us. Girls who were raised to make room, keep peace, stay quiet. But the world was finally listening. And my sister? She tried to pivot again. Her next post was a selfie with a quote about forgiveness, followed by, "Healing is messy, especially when your wounds go viral." I didn't respond. Didn't need to. Because healing isn't a hashtag. It's refusing to shrink back just because they're uncomfortable with your expansion. Meanwhile, my inbox kept buzzing. Lawyers, advocates, even a city councilwoman who wanted me to speak at a leadership summit. But the message that made me stop was from Judge Rowan himself. I spoke to the DA's office. "There's a path if you want to pursue charges. Your parents and sister will be subpoenaed. It's your call." I stared at the message for a long time. I thought about how she humiliated me, how they laughed, how they all believed I'd take it like I always had. And then I thought about justice. Not for the sake of revenge, but for the record. So I typed 2 words. "Let's proceed." And with that, I stepped fully into the one role they never thought I'd claim. The woman who presses back. Not for drama, not for pity, but for every girl who was ever slapped into silence. The subpoena was served on a Thursday, at brunch, in front of her in-laws, while she posed with overpriced mimosas and fake laughter for Instagram. Poetic. She texted me an hour later. "No apology, no ownership. Just venom. You've officially ruined my life. I hope you're proud of yourself." I didn't reply, but I read it twice. Then I screenshot it, saved it, filed it. Because that wasn't a message, it was evidence. That weekend, I met with the DA. They'd reviewed the footage, the slap, the intent, the statements made, the laughter from my parents, the witness list, half the guest registry. "She thinks she's untouchable," the DA said. I shrugged. She's always had an audience. Now she has accountability. They offered me 2 choices. A public court case with press coverage and testimony, or a sealed hearing with a restraining order and official record. I chose the first, because I wanted the truth seen. Not whispered, not sanitized. Seen. The next few weeks moved fast. My lawyer prepped me for questions, tone, posture, history. "You sure you're ready for this?" he asked. I've been ready since the moment she raised her hand. The trial date hit headlines. Local papers called it the wedding fallout that shook the city. She went quiet online. My parents stayed silent, pretending none of it was happening. But the court didn't care about family denial. It cared about facts. On the day of the hearing, I walked in wearing the same navy suit I wore the day I closed on the penthouse, symbolic armor. She looked small on the stand. Gone was the socialite. Gone was the bride. Just a woman unraveling under the weight of her own entitlement. My lawyer asked, "Did you slap your sister?" She paused, then whispered, "Yes." And that one word cracked everything. The courtroom murmured. Even the judge raised an eyebrow. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't cry. I looked at the jury and said, "I wasn't hit because I was cruel. I was hit because I said no. And in my family, that was the real betrayal." When I stepped down, I felt something in my spine realign, something that had been dislocated since childhood. That night, I walked home past flashing cameras, reporters shouting my name, but all I heard was silence. The beautiful kind. The kind you earn when your voice finally drowns out the noise. The verdict wasn't explosive. No cheers. No gasps. Just the gavel. One clean strike. The court finds in favor of the plaintiff. She was ordered to pay damages. Not just financial, though those were steep, but legal recognition that what she did wasn't a meltdown. It was assault. And suddenly, the world she'd built on filters and fiction began to collapse. Sponsors pulled out of her social media deals. Her in-laws distanced themselves. Her new husband? Silent. It's hard to sell fairy tales when the court transcript reads like a confession. My parents didn't show up to the hearing, but I knew they were watching. And 2 days later, I got the email. From my mother. We didn't know it would go this far. Can we talk? Privately? I stared at the blinking cursor for a long time. Then I hit delete. Because there are some doors that should stay closed, especially when the people behind them only knock out of shame, not sincerity. Instead, I focused on building something new. I partnered with a women's advocacy group, started mentoring young professionals, especially those taught to shrink themselves for family. Every story they shared felt like a page from my own past. But this time, I wasn't the girl holding back tears. I was the woman saying, "You can say no. You can walk away. You can start again, and you don't owe anyone an explanation." The headlines eventually faded. The world moved on. But I didn't need their attention. I had something better. Peace. And one afternoon, as I stood on the balcony of the penthouse she once demanded, I realized something. She tried to steal my home, my voice, my dignity. But what she really gave me was a platform. Not the kind you climb for applause. The kind you stand on when you've finally stopped apologizing for existing. The next time I saw her was by accident. A charity event. She walked in late, quieter, older, empty. We locked eyes. She looked away. And I didn't chase her. Didn't speak. Didn't wave. Because healing doesn't always need confrontation. Sometimes it just looks like not flinching. 6 months later, I hosted my first event, a rooftop gathering under warm lights, soft jazz, and a skyline that once felt too far away for someone like me. But not anymore. It wasn't a victory party. It was something quieter, more sacred, a space for women who'd been told to be the bigger person while being shrunk down to nothing. There were no toasts, no speeches. Just stories, laughter, healing that didn't beg for an audience. As the night settled, Judge Rowan approached me with a glass in his hand. "You changed more than just your story," he said. "You gave others permission to rewrite theirs." I smiled. But this time, it didn't feel like pride. It felt like release. After everyone left, I stood alone on the balcony. The same balcony she once wanted to claim as her own. I looked out over the city, the one I built myself in, brick by painful brick. My parents never reached out again. And I never went looking. Because sometimes the greatest closure isn't the apology you're owed. It's realizing you never needed it to begin with. She took her slap. I took my power. And now, she walks in shadows of silence. I stand in rooms lit with truth. This penthouse? It was never just about real estate. It was about space. To live. To breathe. To no longer make myself small so others could feel bigger. And when people ask me if I forgave her, I say this. I didn't forgive the slap. I forgave myself for staying quiet for so long. And that's the kind of peace that doesn't get passed down. It gets rebuilt. By choice. By fire. By finally saying, no more.